You're listening to Pro Booth Talk, education and insights for photo booth company owners.
Welcome to Pro Booth Talk. I'm Jason. With me, as always, is...
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining in.
So we want to do a second rendition of our previous rapid fire. It's pretty popular. So we're just going to take a few random questions that we found on Facebook and that people have emailed us and whatnot, and just discuss our own takes on some things.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
Rapidly. Let's do this rapidly. Not really. But the first question, how do we share client files with them after an event? I feel like most people do this. I used to think that everyone did this the same, but I'm learning more and more that they don't. We used to get branded USB drives from Cherie, but I mean, we stopped doing that years ago because no one even has USB ports on their computers anymore. So I guess we share personally in a few various ways depending on what the service is. So if we're doing something through software like SnapPic that has a gallery built in, then the microsite there, the gallery there is essentially all that we're delivering as far as the post-event files. We do download them and save them for ourselves in case it ever comes back up again, but we're not sending them anything other than their SnapPic gallery. If it is something that we are using a DSLR and something that other than SnapPic, like Darkroom Booth, for example, we use PixieSet. I know a lot of people use SmugMug. We kind of want to move away from that right now because it's just a cost that I don't know if we need to be implementing. It does have a really nice presentation, but there's other tools that we could do that are free. And then finally, if it's something that is video related outside of SnapPic, for example, like the audiograms from like an audio guest book or something that video recording and something like Darkroom, then we actually use Darkroom's event gallery for that because PixieSet is not good with video. I believe the issue is we had to upload like each file one by one or something like that, or maybe it was reversed.
Oh,
maybe
wow.
the client couldn't mass download. They had to download one by one. I can't remember which, but it was one of those. So we weren't able to use videos or share videos efficiently on PixieSet. So we use Darkroom Booth's gallery for that. And those are our three methods of sharing files post-event. What are you doing?
I used to use SmugMug. I love that there was galleries. This is more when I was when I leaned heavy into weddings. But on the corporate side, they really just want their files really fast. So I switched over to Dropbox because all of our event files sync to Dropbox live as long as we have internet, of course. So I moved away from SmugMug just because uploading it was extra time on the back end for us. Sometimes we didn't get our boosts back until like Monday, but our clients, especially on the corporate side, like they don't want to wait. If they're hosting their launch party on Thursday or Friday, they don't want their files back, on Monday. So Dropbox is the way I moved. It's not pretty at all, but our clients don't really want, we don't do weddings, so they don't care if the gallery is pretty or not. They just want those files, so they can share on their social media and get onto like Instagram or Facebook. The other sharing method that I use is SnapPic, although I don't use that too much. I've noticed that SnapPic has like a password, and for whatever reason, sometimes the password, maybe I'm doing something wrong, you guys, or Jason, like if, I don't know if I'm copy pasting the password wrong, but I've tried sending the gallery with the analytics with the password, and my clients aren't able to access the analytics. So now I know this sounds so terrible, but I just do a screenshot because I don't want them frustrated. I had one client that came back to me like 3 or 4 times because I kept giving her the password. I tried typing it. I tried copy pasting. For whatever reason, it just would not allow her access to the gallery. The same with like wiping out the password from SnapPic. I really should probably reach out to them and ask them if they could help me with this. But I just do snapshots of the analytics, and then the gallery automatically syncs to Dropbox, so they get the Dropbox link.
Okay. So that password is a new tool, and we had some hiccups with it as well, but we've worked through it. I mean, first of all, you need to make sure you're sharing the client view and not your view, because then it's actually asking them for your login password. And I believe you could just turn that password off if you go and just delete it.
I tried and the client came back like that doesn't work, even though when I tested it, it worked. So I think maybe you're right. Maybe I'm not sending them the client link and I'm sending them my link.
But I would definitely check that out, because I mean the screenshot is good, but the analytics are real time, so those change sometimes surprisingly a lot from even a few days after the event, because people get back, if they're at a convention from out of town, they travel back a week later, they start sharing it, and those numbers grow. So we like to have accurate information, and as well, they have the ability to fine tune things if they want to look at specific hours or change the demographics and see who's sharing where and stuff. But just my thoughts. Next question. Would you share a photo booth attendant with another company? We saw that post on Facebook recently. And
where do you stand on that, Jason?
So I've changed. So historically, I would not have, but a few years ago, a client or another photo booth company actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, I've got this girl that's really great, but I can't give her enough days, and I don't want her to go get a job and lose her. How do you feel about like sharing her so we can both give her events?" And we gave her a test event, and she was phenomenal. I was very guarded and worried about it at first, but those, like, are you sending me a spy? But those things faded away. I mean, most of the things that I do are pretty open, and I'm like, if she could just called and asked me questions about what I'm doing, I would generally tell her. I don't have that many secrets. And that worked out really well for us. So I did like that. And also non-competes right now are very limited. I know, depending on when this episode releases and when you're listening to it years from now, who knows if non-competes will even exist. I know for a second Congress passed something that said they no longer are relevant, and then a Texas judge put a stop to that just a few weeks before it went live. So as of right now, non-competes are good, but that's not forever. When that it's just paused, it's going to be looked at. Non-competes may be relevant in the future, and they may not be. So I would say right now we are still having people sign non-competes, but they may not be enforceable. But then we also had a guy that's actually another photo booth company owner that reached out to us and said, "Hey, I'm doing work for this other photo booth company, trying to fill up my time. I'm not looking to steal your business or anything. How would you feel about me doing some jobs for you when you need an extra hand?" And at first thought, we're like, that's not going to happen. Like, this is an actual owner. He's definitely going to be trying to steal our stuff. But we decided to humor him with a meeting, and he came to the office and we met him, and we're like, this is a great guy. He is what we're looking for as far as outgoing and personable with guests and whatnot. We decided he's in a completely different market than us. He's not sharing clients. I don't think he would ruin his reputation by trying to steal our clients. And, really, we've got such a strong relationship with most of our clients anyways. I don't know that it would work. They would just come and tell us. So we ended up hiring this guy that owns another photo booth company. So he works for himself. He actually works for another photo booth company as well, and us. So there's two companies sharing him, plus he's doing his own work. And so far that's turned out really well. To us, it's really just that matter of, are you outgoing and friendly? And it's a bonus for us because he actually uses some of the same equipment as us. So he already had that training built in and has that like working knowledge of troubleshooting. So so far it's been very beneficial working with him. So we are pro sharing event staff right now. That's our position. Like, absolutely. Like the first woman that reached out to me, it's doubtful you can give them enough jobs, and good hosts are hard to find, and they're going to be looking for something to pay their bills. So if we can all share a few and keep them working and keep them in our industry, I feel like it's a bonus for everybody, as long as they are an honest person and aren't sharing any client details or anything. But that's me. Where you stand?
I'm kind of in the middle. So for several years, I had utilized other photo booth providers, other photo booth owners as attendants. I had one that was with me for several years, and it's a non-issue for me because I agree with you. Like when they're an owner, they understand a lot of software, a lot of hardware. They understand like logistics because they run their own business too. They just might not have the amount of level of work that you have or the type of clientele. So it's for me, it's a non-issue for that, for like hiring a photo booth owner. I mean, I've had, pretty good experience with several owners, that just don't have the amount of work. On the attendant side, so people who I've brought in and trained and taught to run a photo booth. My team is really awesome. Some of them, I keep saying this, some of them have been with me for several years. In the past, I have lent them out to other photo booth companies and just other companies, not just photo booth companies, but like event companies like florists or whatever, where they need help. Because I feel like right now the employees are kind of hard to find in all aspects of business, right? Not just photo booths. So I've lent them out to other photo booth owners in times of need. And I'm very selective now of who I'm open to lending attendance to. And the reason why I say that is because our team is trained, how to set up the booth, how to tech support. Like they run a photo booth as well as some photo booth owners. They could be their own owners if they, took on the back end and stuff like that. But so I have some experience with people who borrowed my attendance, and they, when they borrow your attendance, they have your attendance contact info, their email, their phone number. The ones who I am open to lending attendance to, they know to reach out to me to ask me in advance if they can reach out to my attendant, because that's my team. That's people that I've invested a lot of money, a lot of training, a lot of time, a lot of effort into growing to where, their skill level. I do have some experience with some owners who have took it upon themselves to just reach out direct to my attendant like they're free agents. And that's where I have issue with, where, my team is trained so that they're available for our events. They're not free for all photo boothers within Southern California region, so that's where I have issue. And so I've pulled back a lot on that. I only lend out my attendance to specific people that I know, they're going to be respectful of, like, hey, Lap, I know, you have a team out there. Do you have any team members available? Sometimes I'll ask for an attendant by name. I will lend out attendance to booth owners that show that respect, but I've had experience with folks who just take on my attendance as if they're their own staff, and that doesn't fly well for me, because it's not about me. It's not about me not wanting to help them. It's just when we have events, I need team members available. If my team members are being hired by other companies for the same busy events, especially like during October and December, where
Sure.
we all are going to be busy during those months, and the days and the weeks that we're busy they're going to fall in line very similar, especially in your Southern California. Like if you handle the same market, the same clientele, similar clientele or similar events, you're going to have the same busy days. And that has been an issue that has come up in the past for me. The other issue is the type of events that my company, me specifically, my company, the type of events that we get booked for, we don't get, like 2 days is considered advance notice for my company, because of the clientele we have. I know some companies where if you're doing weddings, you usually know 6 months in advance if that day is going to be busy or not. I literally can be, and this has happened for me, where I was stepping onto a cruise. I had 0 events for the weekend. And as soon as I was boarding the cruise ship, suddenly I got dropped with like 8 very niche services, like custom photo booth experiences that booked right as I was walking onto that cruise for that weekend, So
Have a good trip.
So having attendance available, I can't commit to lending out attendance, because I literally can book 2 or 3 events overnight. Like today, you can check in with me. Today's Friday. You can check in with me Friday. I have 0 events, and then tomorrow in the morning, 2 or 3 events will give me a call like, hey, we need a. So I lending out attendance will impact like my availability for the last minute events that we book. So for my circumstance, I think like if you do weddings, I think sharing attendance is a great idea. If you don't have a lot of last minute events where you don't have to worry about having those attendants available, I don't see really anything wrong with it, as long as you respect the owner in at least reaching out in advance, because that staff member is not just, like I said, it's not a free agent. You know, you should not be reaching out to them independent of the owner.
Yeah, and the employees are, like you're saying, are assets just like our equipment. We have a finite number of employees, so that makes sense, certainly. This guy that we just brought on that has his own company, I'm sure we won't be able to utilize him in December at all, because he'll have his own massive number of events to work on in December. So finally, just trends. Say what?
That was rapid fire at all.
That's all right. It wasn't a full episode. That's what we're looking at. Questions that aren't full episodes. Trends that we're seeing in the photo booth industry, and this is kind of weird, or not weird, but I mean, the trends that we see in different markets are going to vary. And also, like, for example, the magazine box, actually all magazine, like the magazine virtual covers, or like AI covers, or whatever you want to call it, and the physical box are both trending with us. We're seeing more leads, but they're certainly like, if you're a new company, we're not seeing enough leads to like start a magazine themed niche. You know, it's like one every 2 months, you know. So even with our high number of leads, we're not seeing a ton, but we are seeing a trend in the magazine stuff. We're seeing more of those. We're seeing more people asking about the trading cards. I kind of feel like, I don't know if it's Steve or Min, but one of them started posting those to social media, I don't know, like 6 or 8 months ago. And ever since then, I feel like it was that event. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was a result of it. But ever since then, I've seen a trend of people asking for trading cards. So we've seen an increase in that. The new, like, and I think maybe this is from the Knot. Someone probably did an article about it, but in weddings specifically, I'm seeing a trend in portrait studios or portrait photo booths, basically holding a DSLR and having a setting instead of the fun photo props and stuff like that. And I love that. I hope it continues the trend. But those are some kind of the uptrends, I guess, that we've seen in our requests. And obviously, everyone's always like, at least for like expos, their first question often is, "What's new? Like, what haven't people seen yet?" So new things, I guess, and portrait magazine and trading cards is what we're seeing in Vegas. What are you seeing in LA Lab for the uptrends?
I'm seeing the same exact thing. I mean, I love it because it's what I was pushing for, you know, at the end of last year. I mean, we've been pushing the portrait studios. I think they call them portrait lounges or photo lounges as well, a little bit more elevated experience. So that's something we've been pushing, you know, before 2024. So it's really great that that's falling in line for us. Magazine covers, that I think has been trending for some time. I think this is more in big cities, because if you're in like a smaller town, which I talk to a lot of owners who tell me like their towns are, you know, like 3, 4, 5 years behind, they might not be following these trends now. But if you know that this is a trend now, maybe jump on board now, so you know you can get your town into the trend in 3 years. And then trading cards, for sure, I'm seeing a uptick in that, as well as what are those other cards called? The ID cards or employee cards? What are those called? ID card printers.
Yeah, we've never seen anything for that.
Yeah, here in LA, we're seeing requests for that, as well as like the digital version for folks who might not have the budget to actually have physical cards. So I've seen that. Those are the same trends we have that you have. But where the major markets? Las Vegas, California, or LA actually?
Yeah, a few people like Mark from I believe he's in, I can't remember where he's from. North Dakota. whenever I talk to him, that's what he's mentioning is like he's always like 5 years behind whatever we're doing now. So he comes to PBX and sees what everyone's doing, and he budgets to purchase those things in like 3 years. So
yeah, but I feel like they have such an advantage because if they go to PBX, they see and they already know what the trends are. I think the biggest issue is like a lot of folks that are in those areas, like they think like my area is behind, so I'm not going to introduce it. And I feel like if your area is behind and you do introduce it, you're going to become the trendsetter. So don't let the fact that the area doesn't have that kind of stuff, don't let that stop you. You know what's trending in the major markets. Like, take advantage of that. I feel like that gives you a crystal ball that like LA
yeah, definitely.
Vegas doesn't
And also you can save money because you can see some things that maybe people expect to trend but don't.
Yeah.
So you can stay away from those things.
Yeah, exactly.
So things on the downtrend. I hesitate to say 360 Jason, because oh yes, Jason, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to say like the other thing that I'm seeing that's trending is like a lot of the vintage stuff is coming back, and I know that's happening in your area too, right? Like vintage. Remember those 90s glam photos that had like that haze to it? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the vintage glam that had like a
like the mall glamour.
Yeah, so those
glamour
are coming
shots
back. Those are trending. Yeah, those are trending, and that's big on like the classic photo booths. And then the other things are like flip books, and the buttons are really we're starting to get like calls on that. I mean, we haven't booked anything yet, but
flip books don't come back. I hate flip books.
I love flip books. It's more work, but man, it's so different. I love all the stuff that is outside the box though, like trading cards, buttons, flip books. I love flip books.
Yeah, and buttons are not coming back for us, but we're trying to get it back. We really like doing it, so we're pitching it really hard because we want that comeback. We like buttons.
I like buttons.
Yeah.
But I think anything vintage.
On the downtrend, 360s, we're still doing a lot of them, but not nearly as much as we were. Like we were doing, I don't know, like 4 to 6 per week, and we're probably doing like 2 per month right now. So 360s have slowed down a lot for us. We're still doing them, but they're certainly downtrending. Definitely not as popular as they were in the past. Other things like we actually sold our mirrors. Like we had one planner that still pushed it. Otherwise, we would get a lead for it like every 4 or 5 months. So we just called that planner up and asked like, why are you pushing the mirror? What's going on? Do you love it? And she's like, no, that's just what in part of the packaging that you sent me years ago, so I still use it. It's like, all right, let's get rid of that. And she was happy to leave it too. She hated it. She just thought it was cool and trendy, so she was pushing it. So we steered her in another direction, which is another conversation. Like, talk to your planners, because she should have stopped pushing that a long time ago, and it is our responsibility to communicate that to her, and we failed. But mirrors, we don't see much interest in those anymore. But it's funny because I talked to people about that at PBX, and some people are like half of their business is mirrors, and they do really well with it, but not us.
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of a third thing. So what about you? What's downtrending for you that used to be popular?
Basically, I mean, mirrors are still, there's companies here that have mirrors and book them out every single weekend. So I don't think mirrors are less popular. I think definitely from the moment when they first were introduced, when they were like really hot, when they're really new. Of course, it's not at that level, but I think they're pretty steady. Like the clients that book mirrors are pretty steady because it's still technically a unique experience because of the mirror aspect. What was the other one? 360s. I don't know, like 360s are still pretty popular. I mean, on the corporate side, I think they're not as popular because, they've gone through the circus. A lot of the guests that we experience, we hear every so often like, oh, I've already done 360s. I've already done it, And the problem is like a lot of, I don't know if I should say, but like, I feel like the companies that are delivering 360, they're not recognizing that like people are kind of awkward up there, because we hear that a lot. Like, oh, I went up there and I just did a three. Actually, we did a podcast with what's her name? Amy, and she said the same thing. Like on the 360, they deleted their 360 because
They felt awkward.
They felt
but
awkward.
I feel like that's the conversation you have to have when you're selling, and for like weddings, especially, maybe that's part of the reason that they're downtrending for us as a company, because oftentimes we'll push it away from, like, if someone from a wedding calls up and is asking about 360, if that's what they want, sure, we'll provide it. But it's typically not popular at weddings, especially if you have a lot of older people. Like, they want that takeaway, so we'll try to steer them away from something that we feel that they will be happier with, even though the 360 is more of a profit point for us. But the same thing with corporate. If you're asking about 360, we'll ask, like, is there something you're trying to get with, like, why are you asking for a 360? Is there a goal you're trying to accomplish? Because a lot of times they just are trying to get something new, and that's not new. So we'll say, like, if you're trying to do something new and trendy, like, a lot of people feel like they've already done the 360. And that's what we see at trade shows too. People will walk by and be like, I've done that before. Where a photo booth, like, yeah, you've done it 100 times, but you're still going to do it. Yeah. The 360 is but I
think it's more than, I think it's more than just I've done it before. Because exactly what you're saying, like, we've had photo booths ages and ages, and you have them at your kid's second birthday party. I mean, they're everywhere. I think it's just like the experience when they do have the ability to walk onto a 360 is not as pleasant as a regular photo booth. And that I feel like that comes down to like the operators, and like a lot of people are probably doing like single operator, where the one person, the operator is just there pushing the button, so you don't have any engagement. And I think that has really changed how people perceive the 360, because before, like, the 360 still looks amazing to me. When I see the footage, it still has that wow factor to me. It's just when you've been that guest that has stepped up awkwardly and you don't know what to do, I feel that's the reason why it's on a downhill, because people don't have a good emotional, or they don't have attachment, a good connection.
They've had a bad experience, or not even a bad experience, but not great experience.
Yeah,
they didn't have like someone
because for my clients, we really focus on like the team, like engaging and it sounds so awkward, weird, but like my team like will clap and cheer, and it's like we become like their cheerleaders, and so people have a really great memory of it. So our clients rebook our 360, not because they're looking for something trendy, but because the experience that is associated with it is positive, and I think that's why. I don't know. That's just my take. I don't know. Nobody please don't come at me. This is just my take on like why I think people might not be as inclined to look into a 360, because maybe they don't have a good connection with like the experience of it itself.
Mm-hmm. We actually made, like during, I guess not the Olympics, but different competitions, you have the panel that have like the cards, the rating cards, and they all hold them up, and it would be like a 10, 10, 10, 10. We actually made some of those for our 360 at one point, and we'll, like, if there's a crowd that around the 360, we'll pass them around to people, and they'll hold them up and rate people and stuff, and people love it. It's really fun.
I love it. Yeah. So I think just the experience, like if you, I hate doing the trend thing, because trends are one thing, but you can change that for your own company, like what you're saying about buttons. Like in my mind, buttons are growing, but that's because in my mind, I love buttons, and that is my goal, to like get buttons out there. Just like with trading cards, just like with when I started promoting, like, I know we did this podcast back in what month, like March, and I was already saying like, for 2024, my focus is the photo lounges, or the, whatever you want to call them, photo studios,
portraits, whatever they are. Yeah,
photo. So like that was already my goal. That you can create your own trend, so even though we're going through this conversation of like what's going uphill, what's going downhill, you can control that with like how you're promoting it to your guests. Like if you really love the experience, you just have to make sure that you convey that to your client. I feel like I can't stress that enough, because I know we talked about this in a past pod, Jason, about like glam. When I first brought glam to LA for my clients, I didn't bring glam to LA. I just want to I don't want to take, I'm not trying to take credit for that. I'm just saying, like, when I started introducing it to my clients, it, people were very resistant towards it. But in my mind, that was going to be the trend. And I was going to make it where it was a big thing for my company. And it did, it grew in LA. So, you know, if you have mirrors and you want to keep pushing mirrors, keep pushing it. Just like you're saying with your planner, she was pushing it, and that's why you guys were booking it. So you can control what you book and what you.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you're right. She was still pushing that, and occasionally one of her people would still rent it. Probably almost as often as they book something else. So it was, the power of suggestion is strong, and I guess that's why we're suggesting buttons right now. We're really pushing them. We haven't booked as many as I would like, but we're not done. Or it's funny because we both kind of got on that hill at the same time. I think we were discussing it like after a podcast, and we're like
in March.
I miss buttons. I want to do that. And you were like, yeah, I want to also. And then the next month when we got together, we were both like, we got into buttons.
Yeah.
Both just jumped in.
Yeah, but you're asking me what's trending, and I'm just thinking what's trending in my mind. I know, you know, what people are booking, but that's irrelevant to me because I know what I want to push for our company because I love the experiences. You know, I want to make sure that what we deliver and what we offer is stuff that I really love. So in my mind, it's buttons, you guys, and you know, let's take a look. Like 2 years from now, it'll probably be the trend, Jason.
Yeah, and I will say that we'll take credit for that. Pro Booth Talk pushed the button trend out and got everyone on board. So hopefully in 3 months when we do rapid fire number 3 and look at trends, hopefully the buttons will be on the uptrend, but we'll see. Also, like things that in my mind aren't trending in any direction, things that people kind of expected to be more popular than they seem to be, like the Glambot. I know there's people like Chris Meyer said, I can't remember how many said he was doing, but it was a lot. So I know that they're being booked, but we've never had a lead for it. Like obviously since we don't have one, we're not pushing it, but we've never had somebody really ask for it. The same thing with the Sketchbot. We're looking at that, and I think that we probably will end up doing that. We're pushing it right now to see what kind of response we can get. But it's not big. So those are, I guess, some of the things that were kind of expected to trend, especially the Glambot that just doesn't seem, from my perspective, to be trending. I'd have to talk to someone that has one to see what they're...
I feel like it is trending, Jason. I feel like it is trending. It's a limited amount of operators that have the capability to deliver it, and they are marketing the heck out of it. And I feel like the folks who have invested in a Glambot have been, you know, doing a lot of business. I know a few that travel here to LA to do Glambot. Mm-hmm. So I think it is trending. I just think it's a lot. It should be a high dollar rental because of the initial investment, and just
definitely,
very niche services. So I mean, I hope anybody who is thinking about going into like offering Glambot, like it should not be anywhere near the prices of your 360 or your trading cards. Like it is so costly to jump into offering a Glambot that you have to really assess like your finances to make sure like you're pricing it proper for it to be worth your investment, you know, because it's such a niche service. Like you might book, I don't know, the people that I know that have Glambots, they don't book one event, they book multiple. So I think it is trending.
And the problem, I guess people see that and they hear people like you talk about that dollar point and they're thinking, okay, these companies are booking that for $10,000. I need to go out and buy one right now because I need to make more money, and that's something that people are paying more for. The trouble is they don't realize that that's not their demographic, and they're not going to, most likely they're not going to be able to sell this for $10,000 to their clients. And now they're going to have this very expensive piece of equipment. They're going to try to break even on it. So they're either set in a position where they have to sell it cheap, or they're going to try to make whatever money they can, and they're going to start charging small amounts. And that, I think, is where the industry starts that. I don't know if race to the bottom is accurate, but I think it comes oftentimes from people.
It devalues the... Yeah. It
buying equipment
devalues.
that is not right for their demographic.
Yeah. And then yeah, I feel like for 360 that happened very quickly. When 360s first came to market, I mean, it had this mystical, like, wow, what the heck is that? It was so unique. And I think just the fact that people were delivering it um way below the value of what it should have been, because I don't know if you remember, Jason, from 10 years ago when there was only one, when Orca was the only one. I mean, they were booking them at like
A lot.
premium rentals,
But when
and
you're the
really
only
it does.
one, you
Yeah,
charge
but
what you
if you're
want.
only one, well, if you're the only one, but they also, if you've seen their footage, like the stuff that they were capturing was very amazing. So it was not
Hmm.
just like a
Top
flyby where you
tier.
just slap a 360 there and then start having it spin, you know, like some of the 360s, like some of the 360 owners, the footage is like off center, far to the right, or they're super zoomed in. I mean, like if I saw 360 like that, I would not see the value in a 360 that has my face, like the video where like almost of my face is gone in the video, you know. Like I understand that, and I think making sure that one of the past podcasts we talk about like making sure that you're marketing your company to the right clientele that your company is meant to deliver to, you
Hmm.
know. Like you can't be a low budget provider selling a glam bot for $50,000. You just not going to have the capability of delivering at that level. That's not
Yeah.
being rude or anything, experience wise and yeah, team wise.
No, it's true. Like if you're trying to buy equipment so that you can charge more money, then I can tell you most often the equipment isn't the issue. It's your ability to sell. And I hear all the time people say something like, "Well, it's easy for you to say you've been doing this for 10 years, but if you're a new company coming out, then it's really hard, and you can't charge this. The
You have
industry's
to start somewhere.
saturated. You have to start somewhere." But like I have started a second company on the side, and it's not doing as well as I'd like, but it's doing well. And besides myself, I see new companies starting every year in my market that there's so many that fail that I oftentimes don't pay attention to the ones that I need to, and then 8 months later I realize, I need to start paying attention to this company because they're moving up very rapidly and they're starting to work with some of my planners and things like that. So I've seen new companies that have only been around for like 12 months that are doing extremely well in my own market. So I know, like, obviously when I started there weren't as many companies, and maybe there were, like, I've gone through like hundreds of companies have existed in the time that I've owned mine. I just was able to push through, I guess. But the industry being saturated isn't a reason to charge less. Like, everyone's industry is saturated, like every single market. Like LA is probably the most saturated market, and lap is existing. And sure, part of it is because she has been around for 10 years, but I guarantee there's someone that's been around for 12 months that is just kicking ass in LA right now and charging
Yeah.
a premium. So, it's, if you can't sell, it's not because of the saturated market. You need to look at a closer look at why you're not able to sell and address that. Look inward.
Pick up
And
Alan Berg's book. He was
yeah,
on our past. Yeah.
yeah. And honestly, if it is really, if the reason truly is that your market is too saturated to sell photo booths, then you shouldn't have done it in the beginning. You should have known that coming in. If you would have done a business plan, then you would have known that the industry is too saturated. You can't make money. And you would have never got into the business to begin with.
Yeah, I don't want to say it like that, because I was one of those people. We talk about this a lot. This is not rapid fire, but we talk about that a lot. Like, I was one of those people that always was like, oh my gosh, this, and I know you were too in the beginning, like, oh my gosh, like there's just so much competition. We don't see the value, and clients don't see the value. And I think it's just, if you're not booking events, go back and go back to the basics and figure out like your sales process, figure out like how you're selling, and improve on those, your branding, your brand presence, your social media, things like.
Break it down. Are you getting the leads you need? And if you aren't, find out why. If you are
What do you
and they're
need
not
to change?
converting,
Yeah,
find out why. Like, break it down and try to
yeah,
find where that hole is.
yeah. Could be your branding, it could be your it could be your logo, it could be your company name, you know, it could be several things. So revisit all of that. If you're fighting tooth and nail over like a $25 price match, like you have to reassess like how you're approaching the business, unless you're doing crazy volume. And some companies do crazy volume where they're selling super dirt cheap photo booths, very little profit on it, but because they do so much volume, it's worthwhile. But most of us are not running companies like.
Well, those are our 3 questions. So if you've got a question you'd like to have included in our next rapid fire, send that over our way and we'll take a look. I think trending experiences or trending booths will probably be a repeating question, so that only leaves room
It's
for
ever
2.
changing. Yeah.
Yeah, ever changing. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
To keep the conversation going, join our Facebook group, Pro Booth Talk Community. If you enjoyed this podcast, consider showing your support by subscribing, liking, reviewing, or sharing this topic with someone in the industry.